Good afternoon, and welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to our Direwolf 20 1.10 modded Minecraft Let's Play series. All these skeletons keep trying to shoot me. Since last episode, I've been working on these towers quite a bit, and bringing all this stuff over, these bridges and everything. I've got all the bridges done. I just have to... That tower, I'm still debating. I might possibly want to use endstone on that, so we're going to have to make our way to the end before too long. But anyways, I've been waiting on this stuff, and I pulled some out just because it was so slow. It was so slow. It was like 0.1% every like 5 minutes or something like that. Right now it's just about to finish up, 84.6%. So we're going to continue on with deep resonance today. There's a couple things that I did to get ready for it. And eventually we're going to change this process slightly once we have a multitude of nether stars coming in. But for right now, I actually have a gas spawner inside this little building here. So it always says no space found, but it'll still spawn gas. So I don't know. Like it always flags that. But if we take a look here, yeah, we have 222 gas tiers. So I think we're good for this episode. In regards to that. Also, I did do a dense cable line that runs, you can actually see it right here. We're going to get into P2P. I did use a P2P for that, but we'll cover that in detail in a very near episode. Possibly this episode if we have time. Realistically, we're not going to finish deep resonance this episode, just because the amount of time that it takes to process all this liquid. It's absolutely ridiculous. Because this is going to have to be purified again after this. So, because we want to get the purity up. But anyways, today we're going to get into lenses and lasers with deep resonance. So, let's take a look here. We're going to do get a couple things crafted here. I do have a couple tanks here I'm going to snag. Also, this filter material, I went ahead and made a bunch, but I do have, down here, I do have a crafting card set up with this filter material. So whenever it runs through that stock, because I had made like 1,000 or something like that, you'll notice that we have over 9 stacks of spent filter material at the moment. But whenever this runs through, everything that we have, that crafting card is going to allow it to automatically request crafting if it needs more filter material. So also I did remove the tanks, that came out here with the valve, and I have the valve just down here. I did change it to 85%. That's the maximum purity that you can reach with the filters or the purifiers. So that's what I have set right now. And then whenever it reaches that point, it's just going to go into this tank and then get filtered through or sent over to this tank. So we'll know when this has, material or liquid. So, but it does take a long time. I mean, I left it running while I was asleep and it still isn't even done. So anyways, what we're going to want is we are going to want to get ourselves an infusing laser and a lens. So these lenses, not terribly expensive. Go ahead and snag one of those. And then this infusing laser, and actually let's go ahead and make 2 of these. 2 of each of these. Because we're going to want 2 of them. There's 2 different steps to our infusing. We're also going to want to get ourselves just another purifier. And honestly, I was thinking I might expand this. And basically what I'm thinking of doing is bringing out like a tank on each cardinal direction here. And then putting a purifier on each of these. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Because that way we could have it running 4 purifiers. So it would purify a lot quicker. So I may end up doing that between this episode and next. I was thinking, and actually, since that is a thought, that would come out to here. We're going to bring this over this tank right here, and we're going to set it up actually right here instead to give that space. So if I bring that out for the quad purifier setup, that way it would, it wouldn't try to connect tanks and all that stuff. We'll go ahead and change that over, and this tank is really just going to be like honestly, probably like a midway Actually, I may just remove that. And what we'll do is we'll bring, what was that? Oh, those black lines. We're going to bring these fluid conduits up. We're going to bring it up to right here. We're going to say you're going to insert into here once that valve fills up. So it's just about to hit it, and we'll see the liquid get sent around into this tank. And there we go, 85% purity. So we should see it. Okay, for some reason the valve is not pulling it out. It's purity of 85, strength 10, efficiency 10, and it has all of that. Okay, I'm not for sure. It doesn't want to pull this out unless somehow it's below 85%. So it hasn't, the valve hasn't flagged it yet, but I don't know. I've had it sitting here for quite a while waiting. So we're going to change this maybe to 84%. Like, everything checks out. I mean, even when I set it to 84%, it doesn't pull the liquid out. I mean, I can set this down to even like 10, and it doesn't move the liquid. It just sits there. So, but also, I noticed deep resonance is kind of broken in this pack because my smelter will occasionally, like, I can come in and throw deep resonating ore into that, and it'll just sit there sometimes, and it won't go anywhere. So, okay, well, I have no clue. I have no actual clue as to why this is not working. Like, this valve should pull the stuff out. If it was working correctly, this valve doesn't require power or anything. Basically, it just checks and says, okay, the purity, 85%, strength 10, efficiency 10. As long as it's at or above these levels, it will send the liquid down to the bottom tank, but it's not doing that at all. I'll tell you what we're going to do for the time being, just so I can show you how this works. And maybe, I mean, my pack's fully updated, so I don't know. We're going to go ahead and extract all this liquid, and it's going to go into here. Purity is at 85.1% now. The purifier shouldn't even be able to do that. I don't know. I have no clue at all. Alright. Anyways, moving on. So, if your valve works, or if you have to manually move it or whatever. Anyway, over here now we have a quality of 100% and a purity of 85.1%. And then just our strength and efficiency as it is. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have to infuse this liquid using infusing lasers. Okay, our first infusing laser, we're going to put it right here. Because basically you're going to need your laser and then an air block and then your lens and then your tank is how that has to go. So we've got our infusing laser, and we're going to put a lens right here onto this tank. And what's going to happen is this laser, when given items and power, is going to infuse this liquid, and it will change the purity, the strength, efficiency based on what item that you use. Now currently, sadly, I checked in the deep resonance manual, there is nothing for the items. Like if you look at lens and laser, you can't see anything on the items that can go into it. You can see what catalysts are supported, but it doesn't actually tell you what they do in the manual. What you have to do is you have to actually take the item and put it into the laser to see it. So the only way at the moment with in-game, there is a website that I can link for you guys. I'll put it in the description. Let me actually go ahead and set this to extract so it can start purifying out some of this liquid. But the only way to see it within game at the moment is to take the catalyst that you want to use and put it into here, and you can see that this doesn't add anything to the purity, but it does add 4% to strength and 4% to efficiency with a cap of 35. So the cap, that's as high as it's going to go. 4% or 35% on the strength and efficiency, and then it's going to stop. And it's going to get 4% per infusion. And it infuses 500 millibuckets at a time. So what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm just going to steal this for now. I'll run power over here. Probably after this. But that way it's got power and it can start infusing. So this infusing laser, it's got power now. It's got crystals. And then in addition, it's going to need two other things. First off, it's going to need a redstone signal to run. But you'll notice that if I turn this on, it doesn't actually start up. The other thing that it needs, you'll see a slot right here. It requires either spent or unspent crystals. So they can be depleted. If all the power's been taken out of them, that's fine. But as you know, we haven't actually ran any crystals through and pulled power out of them and all of that yet. So we're going to have to actually use crystals. Now you can either get the ones in the world that you find, but of course I haven't been lucky to really come across any. I think a lot of that though is due to me not really manually mining. Tell you what though, let me check down here. There might be some around, but it will take a few of these, so I doubt I'm gonna come across enough. Okay, yeah, I didn't really come across any. And I mean, normally if you do more actual manual mining than I did, that wouldn't be an issue, but I didn't do a whole lot of it. So, well, we're going to make a crystallizer, which we're going to use this later on as well. Now, eventually, once we get the whole system up and running, we'll be able to use spent crystals that have ran out of power to actually use the infuser and everything. But for right now, we're actually going to have to just use some unspent crystals just to speed up the process. And so what we're going to need to do is let's get... Okay, so I have a tank that's filled right now. Actually, we're just going to put it up in here. That's fine. So basically this thing's going to need a tank below it that has the RCL, the resonating crystal liquid. And then we're going to have our crystallizer on top. Now you'll notice that this is getting power and it's slowly creating a crystal. Now these are just going to be the 100% quality and the 84.1% purity. They're not going to be all that great. But, you know, eventually once we have the strength and stuff up, we're going to have this crystallizing to make the actual crystals that we're going to use for power generation. And like I said, the method that we're going to use for infusing is just going to be a temporary method. Down the road, we're going to adjust it, make some changes. Basically, right now, I'm focusing primarily on strength. Strength is the major thing that I'm gunning for. And just because that governs how much RF is actually present within the crystal before it becomes depleted. The efficiency is the RF per tick. I don't feel like efficiency I have to prioritize quite as much right this second, because what I want to use for that is nether stars down the road, in addition to a couple other, or one other thing, but which later on we'll change it. And by the way, realistically, you probably just want to use a crystal that's just like melt down the resonating ore and use that as RCL. Don't actually purify it. I didn't think about it after the fact. I was like, oh yeah, this liquid's already been purified. Whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this tank. I don't want it to make any more with that purified RCL. I'll use like just some dirty RCL instead. But so we end up with this resonating crystal, and I was thinking it should show the stats on it, but it's not. But we can throw this into the infusing laser, and you'll notice that it just got about 2,800 of this stuff here. So now if we hit the redstone on this, you'll notice that this is slowly infusing. So right now it's at 10.5%. It's slowly going up. Basically, it's going to infuse 500 millibuckets at a time. So this is going to steadily drop this amount. I don't think that that's going to be enough. We'll see. But anyways, basically we're raising that strength and efficiency. It's 4% on 500 millibuckets per operation. So operations are about every, 2 seconds? Something like that. It's going to steadily rise. Now, like I said, the cap on this is 35% for the prismarine crystals. They do 4% per operation. And so let's go ahead and get ourselves a valve. Alright, so it's at 16% right now. So we're going to set up our valve right here. And we're going to say that you're going to move liquid if the purity is 85. We'll say if the strength is 25 and the efficiency is 25. Then you can move it. And And then we're just going to set up a tank right down here. Let's make sure that's all good. Now we're just really just waiting for this to finish infusing. It looks like, okay, it ran out of prismarine crystal. That's fine. Let me go grab some more of that. All right, it's just about to hit. There's 25%, but you'll notice it's not pulling out. Oh, it is. It's slowly pulling out. So the valve is working on this one. It's just not, it wasn't working on the other one. So it is slowly raising that strength and efficiency and everything. Okay, so this needs to stop right now. Once this is a full system and it's constantly running this liquid through, it's not going to be so much an issue. For right now, we want the infusing laser to kind of stop right there. Because theoretically, if this was actually appropriately running, this would constantly just have fluid, moving through the whole system, and that wouldn't be an issue. But for right now, we have to do it a little bit manual, just because this valve isn't working, or it wasn't working. I did adjust it and said strength and efficiency of 9, because maybe that was what was holding it up. So here in a minute, once the purity gets up, we'll see if it actually moves the liquid, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it. But it did work for this one, so that's great. I don't know. But anyways, now we have this nice liquid here that's a quality of 100% and a purity of 85.1%. And strength and efficiency are at 27.5. That's fine. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to, once again, extract that liquid out. And we're just going to bring it up like this, and we're going to set up another tank right here, and we're going to say you can insert here, and so that's going to pull that liquid out and send it to this tank. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up another infusing laser right here, so put it right there, and then we're going to put our lens onto that, and we're going to need a couple things here. Let me get another crystal made up. Alright, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up another valve below this one before we start it up. And we're just going to say that you're going to take liquids whose purity are 0. We'll set the purity to 0. Alright, we're going to say that we want the strength to be 100. And we want the efficiency to be, let's see, right now we've got 25, or that's what it should be. The efficiency to be 70%. That's what we're going to say. And you want to be careful to not let your liquid fall below or, down to 0 purity, because what will happen is if it was to fall to 0 purity, it's going to lose a large amount of the liquid. I want to say it's like 90% or something like that. Because used to, you could basically drop the purity and then just keep spamming things to just barely raise the purity and then drop it again by like large amounts, because what we're going to use to infuse is going to be gas tiers. And gas tiers, you'll notice that we lose 20% purity, but we gain 25% strength and 15% efficiency. So strength, we're going for 100 right now. Efficiency's not quite there, but down the road, once we have nether stars, we're going to go straight for 100% strength, 100% efficiency, and it's very easy. One nether star does 500 millibuckets. So, but right now I'm fairly happy with 100% strength and 70 efficiency. So we'll go ahead and, oops, I forgot to give this power. We'll go ahead and hit that, and you'll notice that the strength is rising at a fairly good rate. And so what we're going to do, let's go ahead and put a tank down here as well. And we're going to give that just a minute to infuse. It shouldn't take nearly as much doing this, because it's, it's 25 and 15 per go, per chunk. So, but we want to keep an eye on the purity. We don't want that to drop too low. It is going to drop down a decent amount with this, like in the 20s. So I did have to add some more gas tiers to this because it ran through that whole stack. It does take quite a bit of materials. So fairly soon we're going to have a more advanced gas spawner, hopefully. Basically just capacitors in it. That's one thing I'll be working on between this episode and next, is actually setting up our spawners, because we have the tower now where they're going to go. So I'm going to start trying to get those implemented. But you'll notice that we're just about to that point. Let's see. That's still sitting. It's just about to hit 85% purity. 98. The gas tiers were actually quite a bit quicker. I'm sure you can tell. So we're up to our 70 efficiency now. And let's kick that off. That's basically what we're looking at. Oh, I didn't hit apply, did I? We'll set it up just like that. 0, 170, apply. Yeah, and see, it's not pulling the liquid out. I mean, it's at 25, 172. That's above. These are all minimums. So I don't know if I was to set this to say 99. Now it moves it. Okay. So I guess, I don't know, these should be like a little bit more intelligent, I think. Because I even let it run, you know, a second after in case maybe the strength wasn't actually at 100%. But I think minimum is incorrectly reading. I think that's the problem. I think what it's saying is it's saying, okay, the minimum that I can move is 100%, but it needs to be above 100% to move it or something. So, and you can't do a decimal point with these. Like, you're limited to 3 characters. So if I did 99.9, you'll notice it becomes 999, and then it resets it to 0. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's a lot of fun to set up, but I think this mod needs to be refined just a little bit. It would really, really help it, I think. But anyways, so now we have a liquid here that has a purity of 25.4, a strength of 100%, and an efficiency of 72.2%. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to move that liquid once again into a purifier setup, because we're going to get that the purity of that liquid up one more time. So what we'll do is we'll just set up a purifier setup, and this one we're probably going to do a quadruple on this as well. I do imagine moving forward. Let me get 2 more tanks. What we'll do is we'll throw, of course, our filter material into here. We'll set up our tanks right there. Then we'll have this liquid output, input. And it's going to start filling that up. And it's going to start purifying this liquid. Right now it's just chucking that spent material. I need to put a barrel right here. Which eventually I'm just going to have it maybe go into a chest or something and then get input into the system. Or not a barrel, but a drawer. So we'll just put a drawer right here and throw that spent filter material. And I'll just have to bring a export bus, set it up over here to fill this this purifier up. But you'll notice that this liquid is slowly, it's purifying once again. And it's going to keep doing that and eventually cap out at what should be 85%. But I know we had that liquid over here, or no, I think it was this liquid actually, that made it to 85.1%. So I have no clue. This is steel, really? It's been at 84.9% forever. That last like 1% does take a while. So we may end up adjusting the counts into something else. I'm going to change this actually to 84%. Okay, and it is filtering down, and I pulled this out. That's the issue. It can't be the exact count. It has to be, you have to give it some leeway. So slowly filling this back up. And so now actually this should work now that the valves are working. We just can't have a perfect world, I think is what we're looking at. So now what would happen is if this was supplied with constant prismarine crystals and the deep resonance crystals, this would keep filling this, and you know, it would start to trickle down once it fills up, but it would immediately get replaced with more resonant liquid and all of that. So but anyways, I'm going to have to wait a while for this purity to increase. But I will say that after this point, once we get it to 85% purity, what we're going to do is we're going to then send it to get purified by a laser setup. Because if you use diamonds or emeralds, as well as a few other things, I believe ender pearls do it, which I believe ender pearls are probably what we're going to use. We're going to set up an enderman spawner between this episode and next. Diamonds, emeralds, and ender pearls can all go to 100% purity. So what we'll do is once it hits like an 85% purity, or we'll say above 84%, then we're going to send it to a another laser setup, just like this one, and have it purified up to about 100% with those ender pearls, diamonds, or emeralds. So probably ender pearls. I think they're just a little bit easier to get and a little bit easier to farm. So I think that's what we're going to do, is have it, you know, get that purity up as high as we can get it. So what we're gunning for with this is 100% purity, 100% strength, and 70 plus efficiency for these first crystals. And then, like I said, once we have the wither on spawn and everything, we'll end up upgrading that, and we'll go for 100% across the board for our crystals. And it'll actually be a lot easier because the nether stars drop the purity by 60%, but they give it a plus 90% to the strength and efficiency with a cap of 100. So one nether star finishes 500 millibuckets. So, and actually really quickly before we end out, I do want to show you how P2P works. So P2P tunnels, let me grab these off here. You've got these P2P tunnels that take fluix and engineering processor iron. They're not all that expensive, and they're honestly invaluable for expanding your system. And then if we were to grab ourselves a memory card from Applied Energistics, what we can do is we can attach a P2P, and this is basically how to move channels, like large amounts of channels. What we can do, I hate trying to get in here to do anything. So what I've done here is I've set up a controller. So we have basically just a mini Applied Energistics system. And I've got dense cable coming out of this because, of course, dense cables can carry 32 channels. And the way it works is if you attach a P2P, and it has to be an ME P2P, by the way. There's also energy and there's items, and basically you can move all the stuff with a P2P. You can move pretty much anything in the game with P2P tunnels. But ME, I feel like, is the most beneficial because with ME you can move channels. So for example, there's 32 channels coming out of this line. And we're not presently using any of those. So if we attach a P2P tunnel to this dense blue cable line, and then attach just a fluix cable, or any kind of cable. You can do color cables if you want. I like using fluix for the channels, moving the channels, and then I'll do colors coming off the actual controller. That way I can color code things, and I can know at a glance, like, okay, this connects to, you know, the bottom of the fluid building, and it's very easy to manage that stuff. And you'll notice it says device online, but it's unlinked. So basically that means that it has power because it's receiving power from this line here. This does require power, so if you don't use the controller, because you can just, if you wanted to, you could just connect, have these dense cables running without the controller here. But the controller is going to allow for us to have, additional channels coming out and all of that. And basically it's going to allow 32 channels on this side and 32 outputs on that side. So I tend to like you just throwing a controller down there in the middle. But anyways, so basically what's happening is these 32 channels are going through this P2P. And when this P2P has a link that's attached to this cable line, then it can open up those channels. So let me show you, for example, if we go over to our fluid building, and right over here, I've got pretty much the exact same thing set up. What we're going to do is we're going to attach our P2P right here onto this dense cable, because basically if you're sending dense cable into a P2P, make sure an output dense cable with the P2P. And then what we'll do is we'll just attach this with another fluix cable. And so this is all plugged up now, but we have to actually link those two together so they know that this P2P connects to this P2P. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift right click this P2P, and you'll see that it says copy device configuration to the memory card. And what we're going to want to do is just right click this, and you'll see that it now says it's linked. This is the output side. And if we go over here you can see that this P2P says linked input side. Basically, it's just transferring those 32 channels to that building. So this dense cable line with the P2P just makes it a lot cheaper to move mass channels around a base, you know, especially one that's at least a mid to large scale. That dense cable line is going to really alleviate the amount of cables and all that stuff that you have to run around your base, because this one cable line can move all of that. And if you wanted to, you could even plug energy into this. You could plug items. You could plug fluids. Pretty much everything has a P2P version, and that can all be plugged into this dense cable line. Personally, I mainly just use it for ME stuff, and then occasionally I might stick energy or something in there, because items you don't really need to move with ME, because ME itself moves items, you know what I mean? So that I don't find as useful. Fluids maybe, but generally I tend to like ender tanks more, just because they don't take any cables. So you know, but you can move energy and you can move your ME that way. So anyways, if you guys have any questions about that, it's hard to explain in a sense, but hopefully that was thorough enough for you guys to understand it and be able to duplicate it or whatever. And like I said, I've got an AE tips and tricks. I've covered it in that as well. So if you have any questions or anything, you know, feel free to check that out or let me know. But anyways, I'm going to end it out there. Next episode, we will probably... Next episode, of course, is a world download, so I'd like to finish up this deep resonant stuff. So we're probably going to be finalizing that, which is mainly the final step of purity, crystallization, pedestals, and energy production with it. So the actual reactor. So I hope you guys join me for that. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. And I will put a link in the description for the wiki for deep resonance. So if you actually want to look at what each item does in particular, because there's about 20 different items or something that all have different effects. Like I said, you could bump this up to 100 far before nether stars, you know, if you wanted to, but it's just, you know, how crazy you want to go with it. Right now, I just don't need the efficiency that high for my personal needs. So, but anyways, I hope you guys join me for next episode. And until then, as always, do take care, stay safe, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already for more daily videos. And I hope to see you guys next time.